Hello and welcome to what is the second talk in Doha Film Institute's Roundtables with Film Experts series. Today's topic is online distribution, new models, and viewing habits. Did this specific situation accelerate trends that were already visible, or did audience behavior change? So maybe we can start with Bobby and then follow with Mathilde and then Jeffrey.
Basically, our experience is that the lockdown and the COVID crisis has simply accelerated all the trends that we were seeing before. People are at home now, they have more time, and they're simply looking for different forms of entertainment. So to give you an idea, like in the first quarter of 2020, our subscribers grew 60% globally. So that is a massive step change in our growth. It's really quite extraordinary. And year on year, our viewership has been tripling over the last few years. And this now just really pushed things to a completely new level. We also see that people are engaging with a more diverse type of content. So it's quite evenly spread across all the types of, although of course the movie is very curated, we're seeing that all the films are reaching like new levels of engagement and sort of record-breaking engagement levels.
I totally share Bobby's point of view. I mean, we do slightly different things than movies. So basically on Festival Scope, we propose to the audience reruns of festival screenings. That's something that we've been doing for a few years now. Doing reruns of festival screenings is very nice. It's a timely event. It lasts roughly between a week or 10 days. And it's basically the idea of filling up the virtual screening room with the limited capacity. So we have this kind of same feeling online as the one in a cinema, where actually after like 500 or 2,000 screenings, virtual screenings, the screening is fully booked. But now what is really a great pleasure is to see that, you know, films that had no name attached to them, like maybe a first-time director, no very well-known cast, no press yet, are attracting the audience. I don't know if it's, you know, after a few weeks of the first weeks of lockdown, maybe the audience has been going to like secure classics or, you know, but afterwards they were really curious. And I think on the, on this aspect of discovering new talent, the lockdown has been really powerful. And I think it's a very precious asset for the future.
I'd probably echo everything these peers of mine have said as well. I mean, Vimeo has seen like enormous growth since the lockdown. All of our metrics have gone up, from subscribers to engagement to views across all tiers of our business, and not just like audience and viewership on the public site where I help curate for staff picks, but also using our other things like an audience going to VOD and spending a lot more money, or subscribing to different OTT platforms that we help whitelist and produce. But also an interesting thing about Vimeo is that our filmmakers and the creators using Vimeo can be so timely, and we've been curating very relevant, timely channels that might focus exclusively on films made during lockdown and films about lockdown. And we have tons of audience wanting to engage with that content specifically, and how it in a unique way is like a global event, where you have a film made in lockdown in London, and then one made in New York, and one made all over the world, and you can see how different people are both handling the lockdown, approaching how they depict it, and then also how the audience is engaging with it.
When you look at that phenomenon from the perspective of the filmmakers and the existing distribution models that are they being shaken by this? Are there opportunities for the filmmakers here? And is there a trade-off here between these new possibilities and sort of the existing distribution models?
Yes, I definitely think there's a trade-off. But without knowing exactly what that equation is, I think going to the beginning, I think it's really great because what this has done is sort of like thrown the whole rule book away. So we know over the last decade, the rule book has been slowly or at sometimes quickly ripped up. But now, again, using that word, everything got accelerated. So to give you an example, like when the virus hit, we were in the process of releasing Pablo Larraín's Emma. And that's a film where we had all rights to the film in the UK, and we were developing a campaign. And with the virus coming and basically cinemas being shut, we shifted to an online strategy, and also were able to then put together a global strategy where we ended up doing this amazing free preview screening of the film. The film was available for 24 hours for free, with also Q&A with Pablo Larraín as well. I just think it's like super exciting that we got the opportunity to create case studies around exciting events like that with that rule book being completely torn up.
Well, in terms of business of festivals, because that's primarily what we're doing here with Festival Scope, I sincerely hope that very soon theaters will be able to reopen. The way I see the future for festivals is probably going to look at, some kind of hybrid model to continue to have their theatrical screening with like this, shared feeling of discovering a film with an audience, but also in parallel to that, having their own and managing their own virtual cinema. That enables them to reach out to populations that normally are maybe not the ones that go to the festival, either because it's too expensive or they don't have the time. So I think it's, in terms of audience for festival, it has the tendency to expand. So the festival becomes like more meaningful, and probably there will be the opportunity for the festivals to become like yearly, big programmers. Maybe, I don't know, that's also a possible trend that could be significant for filmmakers, also in terms of revenues. For films that do not manage to find distributions, maybe be able to be, the one linking the films to the audience, but on the long run.
Vimeo is mostly a self-serve platform where it's up to the filmmaker or the creator to upload their own content, whether it be on the public site or on VOD. But we have seen, obviously, these shifts. I think, again, whether pre-coronavirus or now, it comes to the intent of the filmmaker and what their goal is with the actual release of the film. If it's to find an audience, if it's to get industry attention, if it's to launch a new film for their upcoming career. If it's audience and viewership that they want, online now and taking control of the moment can be really useful. But again, what Mathilde was saying about festivals, we've been working a lot with OTT where people can create their own apps, and we've worked with many film festivals. They are starting to create year-round programming. Many of the regional festivals in the United States, at least, also tend to run their local art house theaters. So they are programming year round, but with those theaters shuttered at the moment, curating content and building an OTT platform where they can continue to build audiences and continue to showcase whether it's past work or highlight new work in like a week-long window or something. It keeps audience coming back and engage with that festival. And they are seeing that as a way to build the hybrid version of what's to come. If they have something set up for the week-long festival, then they can kind of funnel that into their OTT and continue to generate revenue off of it for both themselves and the filmmaker.
Can you describe this world? Is this all playing into what you kind of had as an idea for Mubi? And how does this play into you also being the producer and a classic theatrical distributor?
One thing is that, we really hope and want to see the theatrical experience come back. So you're absolutely right. We always saw ourselves as compatible with the theatrical experience. And we always say we would always prefer to see a film in the cinema. That's like, we're all about great cinema, and you want to see a film first and foremost in the cinema. but it's great if you can't make it to the cinema that you can have access online. And of course, what this has done, as we've described, is, accelerated the online access. And also, I wanted to add that it's really not just about people being stuck at home and watching more at home, but that better content. So partly what this situation, this crisis proved, is that if you make these films available online, that level of content being available will engage even more in the home or the mobile environment. So there could be a kind of virtuous circle there, which is what we've always been trying to get to. But if you take the theatrical element out of that, then that's not kind of where we want to go. Exclusive early window films drive growth, but more importantly, drive engagement. And they're the exciting films that the audience wants to see. So we want to have different strategies to do that. Part of that will continue to be licensing films, but also it's important for us to be able to self-supply and create those films ourselves. So we want to be able to be buying films on the open market, but also being able to create them ourselves to deliver, the best kind of films to our audience. And the films, when we say the best, we also mean the films we know they want to see, because we engage with them every day and we understand what their tastes are and what kind of films and which filmmakers they're interested in, etc.
You being also a programmer and a producer, what are the major concerns in this process?
It's interesting because it's really like we've had very, very long discussions this year because, as you said, I'm also a programmer for the Locarno Film Festival. It really depends of the festival. If it's a festival that is launching the film internationally, like Locarno is, like Cannes is, like Venice is, or if it's a festival that's a major gathering for the cinephile community, like CPH is in Denmark. And I think that changes very much the strategy for the filmmakers. It can be like a great possibility to accept an online screening and to go for an online screening of their film and do like live Q&As, for example, like some festivals that went online did. When you're a filmmaker, you've been writing your script for 3 years, you've been producing. We all know how long it takes to produce a film. And then, it's not just you as a filmmaker, it's your team, your cast, your crew, everyone. And I think to launch the launch and festival is useful for like strategic launch and, triggering the sales and so on and so forth. But for the team who has produced the film and directed the film, and there's also a very symbolic and very powerful element of being together, and eventually it's real, it's there, it's on the screen and it's with everyone, but it's also with everyone that made it. I would really advise filmmakers to think according to festivals, according to where they are at for their launch and what they are expecting from a festival.
And can you briefly discuss the issues that the festivals themselves have with, or the sales agents might have had with rights for the films, with territoriality of the whole thing, and the reach of those films online, and then about the whole festival ecosystem, because obviously that having one online festival might endanger other festivals out there.
Some festivals have chosen to boldly have their films online as a catch-up screening, like the Venice Film Biennale, the Venice Film Festival. They've been doing this for a few years now, and they are aiming at an international audience. But it addresses a very important issue, of course, because in our business, when we sell films, we sell a territory, and we sell a duration, and we sell a different type of rights. And so if a festival all of a sudden decides to do catch-up screenings online all around the world, what is the status of those screenings? There's a whole debate. I don't really have an answer. I know it's a debate right now. And I know some festivals tend to kind of want to create a charter in order for festivals to just limit themselves nationwide. But it can be even more precise than nationwide. For example, in the US or in Canada, it's like state-wise. I mean, the premiere is like a premiere for the States.
Jeffrey, did you want to come in on this one?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think, having worked at different film festivals too, and working online with premieres, I find premiere status to be, especially for short films, to be very stupid. But for feature films, I understand it's how a lot of festivals, especially in Europe, it's how festivals and how films get financing from their countries. Whereas in America, we don't have a national funding, and premiere status is pretty much just a prestige element. There's been an interesting thing with the Film Festival Alliance in the United States, where they have specifically signed a charter where any film that's premiering during the time of COVID at whatever festival, premiere status it doesn't matter. They've signed this agreement to just say, during this time, we are ignoring all premiere status requirements. Which is refreshing, but again, in Europe, it becomes a different problem with how a film festival is financed. Having a certain amount of world premieres dictates maybe the amount of money that they can receive from the government. Ann Arbor Film Festival in the United States in Michigan, it was one of the first film festivals to have to go digital in the end of March. And it happened so quickly that they, didn't have time to advertise or really even plan about how to launch. And yet they were super excited by some elements of it because, they're live streaming the entire thing as if it was the festival happening in real time. So they would have panels doing live, they would do the programs of films live, and they were getting, couple hundred to 1,000 people per screening, which is much more than would have ever been able to sit in the theater. And again, it's international. It's not just people that have the ability to travel to that specific theater and pay for that thing. It opened up the funnel of who could experience Ann Arbor's programming and what they do. And again, that sort of thing leads into, especially for a regional festival, leads into how that festival can brand itself and continue to grow maybe an audience outside of just its specific region.
It seems like now with the OTT platforms and the cinemas that you mentioned, that somehow Vimeo is also becoming a player in the feature side of the business. Is that something that's a thing right now, or how do you see it?
I mean, yes, but we are a self-serve platform. We build creator tools. So we essentially, across the spectrum, try to help filmmakers sell, build, and engage their audiences, sell to their audiences. But we are not really in the game of producing or developing our own content. Recently, during this crisis, we did launch a campaign to commission films. So we commissioned a number of our short staff pick filmmakers to make films about small businesses that they love that were in crisis. But that's more or less the extent of us getting into the game of producing and developing content.
Other than, do you see the offer on your side being reshaped by the current situation in the market?
I think a lot of people, we saw an incredible influx of requests for us to handle, live streaming a film festival or creating an OTT platform for a film festival. But then we always come up with other issues. Something like if you live stream, you can't have DRM. It's very, very expensive. And as a self-serve sort of program, unless you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's next to impossible to protect your film in that way. So you would have to sell through OTT. And some of our things are very useful for virtual festivals, but then we've also discovered gaps where some companies want a hybrid model of live streaming this and OTT for this part. So we're definitely trying to work on how we can bolster that offering for this new kind of use case.
Pablo Larraín film, Emma, can you maybe give us some more insights about that? That was a film that was supposed to be distributed theatrically and, you know, in the regular distribution windows.
Yes.
Where do you see it? You know, where is it at the moment? Will any of it come back, or, you know, how would it be like? You know, what will be the film's life from now on, or did it end already? You know, how will it play out for that film?
No, look, I think there's no one answer to that question, because as usual, you know, the rights are very fractured amongst many different distributors around the world. So the special event that we did, like, required the cooperation, not just of the sales agent and the filmmaker, but various different distributors, all of which who, you know, agreed that this was a good idea. And maybe in some cases, they were looking at it as, well, look, it's 24 hours and a very interesting audience that's going to engage, but not huge audience as well. So, you know, it's not like putting something for free on Netflix or somewhere where, you know, it's just going to be completely cannibalized because, you know, it's such a vast engagement, but a really, really good, you know, targeted audience. And
can you give us the sense of the numbers? Can you give us a sense of the size of the audience?
Yeah, no, well, yeah, I mean, it's you know, the viewing figures in that 24 hours was like north of 25,000 views. So you know, it's that sort of level, and you know, that's a significant number of people, but not a number of people that is like going to majorly impact on, you know, other revenue streams down the line. And again, territory by territory, you know, the local rights holders will now decide what to do. But in many of those territories, we actually also have the rights. So the film is currently available on Mubi, and something that we've been planning for quite some time, that we ended up launching just almost by coincidence during the COVID time. So recently, is something called Library, which is, so Mubi, for those of you who don't know, I should have said it initially, but it's a curated site where there's only 30 films. Every day you get a new film, and one that's been there for 30 days goes out. So the traditional model that we've had is that the film is available for 30 days. Now we have something called Library, where those films are available for a longer period of time, some of which may be, you know, a magnitude of, you know, decades, because they're films we produced or films that we have acquired long-term rights in, or it could be a more traditional sort of 2-year SVOD window. But yeah, so a film like Emma, you know, has now gone through the 30-day process and will be available on the Mubi Library for a longer period of time. And then in other territories, like the US being the best example, where Music Box is actually the distributor of the film in the US, they looked at Mubi doing this as a preview opportunity, and then they will be executing their you know, theatrical or whatever hybrid version of release, you know, in the coming months. So yeah, so really it depended sort of territory by territory.
You also launched a relief fund for art house cinemas in the UK, right? Can you tell us about that initiative?
We gave 90 days of Mubi for free to the patrons. So I guess, you know, using their database of members or you know, customers that they were engaged with. So to 400 cinemas around the world and cultural institutions, we gave 90 days of Mubi for free. So that was the first thing we did to try and help these cinemas, you know, continue to engage with their customers and be present with those customers. And then, yes, we set up a sort of GoFundMe, you know, call to action, just to raise money in order to help support some of the independent cinemas in the UK, particularly.
Jeffrey, can we go back to the virtual theatrical release and Vimeo's role in that? Are there any trends there that you're that you notice? What kind of information can Vimeo offer to the cinemas that are using your platform to get to know their audience? And I guess the question comes to the marketing at some point. How can it be used as to gain an additional amount of knowledge about the audience that the cinemas maybe did not have before?
The festivals we're dealing with, and even the companies creating virtual cinemas, tend to have different goals. They aren't always consistent. Like Ann Arbor, for example, live streamed their entire festival for free. They wanted, they gained monetary streams in different ways through some state funding, and because they're also a nonprofit. Other festivals are for-profit and they don't have that kind of avenue. We just propped up the Norwegian Short Film Festival, and they also have government funding, and they used OTT and live stream. But if you visit vimeo.com/OTT, you'll see a whole breakdown of pricing and what the analytics can be. But again, you are basically running your own platform, and we create the technology of which you kind of put your own branding on top of. So you can use our like world-class analytics on the background to see where people are watching from, how long they're watching, what they're clicking on, it, who is buying stuff a la carte. All of that is again right there for the festival, or whoever you want to say the client is.
Matteo, going back to what you mentioned at the beginning, that there's demand for more diverse, more curiosity on the side of the audience. How do you see that again from the perspective of the filmmakers? Should they, how can they exploit that? What are the opportunities in terms of the type of content that can serve this new amount of newly found curiosity on the side of the audience?
Regarding the links between cinemas and online, there is a platform in Netherlands that they have been operated like for 1 or 2 years. It's called Pickle. And it's very interesting. They already gathered, it's a platform that gathers the programming of different distributors. And when the audience reaches the website, you can decide which cinema you go to. So obviously it's a virtual cinema, but they've been doing this for a long time. And so it was a very good and immediate way to kind of, bridge out the audience and the cinema and the distributors on one place. And I think, that was a very quite a visionary platform. Going back to the curiosity of the audience and the impact on filmmakers, I don't know. I don't really have a recipe. I'm coming from the programming of art house films. So, to me, it's just an excellent news, this curiosity, because there's always the risk of, having an audience be tempted to focus more on TV series or, the easy stuff that are kind of reassuring and comfy, like a sofa. And so to me, the message would probably be just go for it. Just even if it seems like your film is hard to finance, or if it's like a no-market film, the fact that the audience becomes more cinephile is very encouraging. I'm always for looking at the market. I come from international sales, but it's also for filmmakers, they need to be reassured, because everyone's been talking about how the market's shrinking for art house film, and it's not just now. It's been going on for already a few years, and about how they can get revenues from online platforms. I guess at Mubi you probably discuss more with the sales agents, but it could be interesting to say to a filmmaker who wants to have to premiere the film on Mubi, what's the deal structure for them? What kind of revenue they can expect? To me that's but the main message for me would, out of this new curiosity for art house film, which I hope is going to last, is really like to give confidence to filmmakers.
Bobby, would you like to come in on this one and also?
Yeah, I totally agree, Ben, with what you just said, and I think it goes all the way back to what Mathilde said in the beginning about, how do you launch a film now? And it's quite difficult to say, really. I don't want to dwell too much and just keep going over the same example, but that Emma example, well, that's kind of an idea of how things might be, but I think we are all quite hopeful that while I guess we can never go back to the way things exactly were, but that some of the key elements that make a festival and are so critical and important to launching and building the reputation of a film can come back. And to me, a lot of that has to do with bringing the community together. It's that special brew, that kind of concoction of the film, the critics, the civilian audience, the people who are just there because they're so excited to see the films, and all that buzz and how that creates the reputation of a film, and how the distributors then feed off that and take that as the seeds that they then go on to grow to build the campaigns to connect the film to the audience. And when you remove that physical space aspect of it, of bringing people together, it's quite hard to see exactly how to replace that. But it doesn't mean that when it comes to making the films themselves, it doesn't mean that there should be any despair or any sort of change of plan. The plan for all filmmakers always has to be, I have an amazing story that's super urgent that I need to tell, and it's going to connect with an audience and maybe even change the world. All that passion that filmmakers put into it, they must continue to do that. And there'll be a certain sort of balance of the cream always rising to the top, and that using these tools that are online, if that's the way it has to be, then we're going to have to use these online tools, whether it's online film festival or all the amazing things that Jeffrey's talking about that Vimeo are doing. We need to, you need to then use those tools to build the reputation of your film and connect it to an audience.
Jeffrey, do you have something to add here? Or maybe can you give us an example of how, a concrete example of maybe how Vimeo can be used as a tool to gain this visibility?
Again, it's how you put the film online. You're going to use the same strategies you used before to go to festivals. You're going to look at a festival and see the type of films they're programming. You're going to see if that fits or matches the type of film you've made, because you don't want to just submit a film. Say you have a feature film that's a horror film and you want to submit it to a festival that traditionally plays very art house, slow films or something. You wouldn't do that. And it's the same thing with online, where you have to be careful about where you're going to submit the film and how you're going to position it out in the world. And also the news outlets you're reaching out to maybe promote the film. For Vimeo, for example, you can send one of our team a message via Vimeo to get eyes on it. But honestly, we're 4 people and we have tons and tons of requests every day. So the best idea is put the film online. If you want to release online, put a nice thumbnail, put a nice description, put effort and care into how you actually present and package the film, and post it on all of your social media networks. Get your friends to sign into a Vimeo account, comment on it, like it. And it's actually not that much. If you get a certain amount of likes, a couple dozen likes within 12 hours, it surfaces on one of our ways to see what basically is trending on the site at that point, and that will guarantee eyeballs on it. I think you should always be knowledgeable of what's happening in the moment and how you can continue to share a film you made 5 years ago or a film you made 5 minutes ago.
Ala Hamash is asking us, can you please provide some numbers or statistics to help us realize the scale of change?
The statistics will start to come out. I think, probably, I didn't get the name of the questioner, but there's a lot of stuff online because one of the effects that the closing down of exhibition globally has had is that there's more specific reporting around VOD and and engagement on VOD. So like there's a top 10 going in the UK. I'm not sure in other territories as well. And like VOD platforms are actually starting to report, not very specific, because of course data is, very valuable to platforms, but there's more transparency about what's being, what's happening, which films are engaging, etc. So it's really worth just simply Googling around and you'll get some information. But yeah, as I said, our subscribers grew, 60% globally. Our subscriber base has like doubled since the beginning of the year, and viewing has been tripling year on year. So those are the three statistics that I can share about Mubi.
Viewership on the open site has gone up, and probably 140% or something. But I'm unable to really reveal what stuff is making on VOD because it's not my film. I don't own it or have anything to do with it. But yeah, viewership and just signups have gone up again, like by tripled, and just it's been a lot more people coming onto the platform.
So we have a question here from Yassine, who asks, are there any changes in the MENA region, and how do you see VOD substituting the sort of lacking infrastructure for distribution in the Arab world?
Yeah, we recently organized a festival online with the European Commission. It was scheduled a while ago, and and basically the idea was to build a program of European films available for the African continent. We had a few issues though, because sometimes we tested the connections in different countries in Africa, but we had them tested, I guess, by people that had internet connections from the office, or the issue of internet access, of actually watching an entire feature film online has been, is something that we addressed. We had this European films in Africa and the African films in Europe. So we've developed this community of cinephiles from Africa, but I would say the block in the growth probably is also linked to the internet connections. But I'm talking like broad Africa. So probably the situation is different in the MENA region.
The growth acceleration, even we're talking now pre-COVID, is Southeast Asia and also India, which are, Southeast Asia as a region, and then India as a very important growth territory, are places where we really localized and launched very specific versions of Mubi in those territories last year. And of course, we have seen a lot of growth in those areas. But as I said, that was based on existing trends. And I think Mathilde sort of hit on it a bit. Is like, you need all the pieces in place. You need the consumer habits. You need the good broadband, the good mobile, and all that. And then things start to roll from there. As far as Mubi is concerned, when we see certain characteristics in a territory, then our methodology is to start to localize the marketing first, and then with the marketing, invest more in local content and local promotion, and then you start to see this kind of flywheel growth effect. In terms of the MENA region and Africa as well, is that we are making a real effort to diversify our content. I think that there tends to be a focus in the independent world on European and American and also Asian cinema, but there are so many wonderful films and filmmakers in the MENA region, and we really see it as an important part of our mission to start to consciously diversify and make sure that we're showing films from all over the world and giving those films and filmmakers a voice, beyond their regional borders.
Here's a question from Manuel Santini, who asks us, are virtual theatrical window releases here to stay?
Yes, I think I would argue that they are. I think that as we come out of this, that again is that word acceleration. That what I believe you're going to see is a mixture of all these different tools now that we have at our disposal as filmmakers and distributors to promote our films. I think a lot will come down as well to how the debate around the theatrical exclusivity now plays out as the cinemas start to come back. And I think it's quite hard to predict, how that will land. There could be a very strong argument to reinforce theatrical exclusivity and, to reinforce the theatrical premiere model being in cinemas in order to protect cinemas through the future. So I know it's going to be an interesting debate, but for me, I think it's that these options will continue to be on the table going forward.
How can independent film programmers tap into the films that are available for free on Vimeo to create a curated program to stream online? Any licensing fees, etc., to pay Vimeo, or do I have to contact each filmmaker directly? Asks Hind.
If the film is already online and on Vimeo, you can create your own channel if you have your own account and you're an independent curator and you have your own Vimeo account. There is on the player itself, if a filmmaker has enabled add to collections. So there's on the right of the player, there's a little heart for a like, there's a share button, and then below there's 3 squares stacked on top of each other. If that is enabled, you can click and add that to any of your channels and add any of those films to your specific channel and create either a private album, a public album, or showcase, and create your own curated channel with anything. And you don't need permission as long as it remains on Vimeo. It's essentially a form of sharing and curating your own channel to promote these films. And we also encourage film festivals to, when they have their films online, many of them, I'll give an example, like Outfest in Los Angeles, which is one of the largest LGBTQ film festivals. They have all of their previous edition films that are online. They curate into an Outfest channel, and prior to the festival, we have sponsored them, and they can promote their channel of past editions, so filmmakers or audiences can continue to watch what has played at that festival, get a sense of their identity and their brand.
Hi, I'm a producer for a documentary series at Al Jazeera English, and so far the channel has relied mostly on our own website, known for news and short film content, or third-party platforms like YouTube and Daily Motion to distribute films and reach our audiences. 2 questions in order of preference. What are the pros and cons of relying on these third-party websites as opposed to our own OTT branded platform? And how important is it for large media companies like Al Jazeera to get its own branded and controlled OTT platforms? Ask Horia El Haddad.
How important it is for your company to have its own OTT platform, I guess, is up to you and up to your business's mission. The benefit of it is that it's not fractured in the way of using multiple third-party systems to, your audience is fractured across many different platforms versus using OTT, for example, you have specific Al Jazeera branding. I'm using Al Jazeera as the example. You could also continue to build your audience in a singular location. You can monetize the content in whatever way you see fit. You also, there's always a benefit to use them in conjunction with each other, where YouTube might funnel viewers to your OTT platform for exclusive content, where maybe your YouTube channel has redundant, more free content that could drive viewers to actually pay Al Jazeera a set price per month via subscription, or to log on and do it, you know, a la carte. The other thing is, you know, you can build out your platform in various ways. You can build your own bespoke app, so you can have your app, Al Jazeera app, on Apple TV, on Android, on Roku, on Amazon Fire Stick. It's just the accessibility across all platforms.
How do major cinema chains feel about the online versus theatrical issue? Will it have a major effect on large studio films and disrupt the whole ecosystem? Asks Ben Robinson.
Yeah, that's why I thought, I mean, the idea of Pickle in Netherlands, and then after I'll go back to the specificity of the French market, was quite amazing. It's because it's on one platform. It's a way to reconcile. I mean, there's no devil and no angel there. It's just all together on one platform. And I like the link that continues from the audience to its own cinemas. And it's true that you know, when you've had the chance to actually go to your own regular cinema, you're attached to the actual physical place because it enabled you to discover films. So I think there's an affect to it, because you also trust their own judgment. That's the essence of curation. It's like festivals. What we do is we select films, and so do cinemas. And so I would answer this part. I mean, as the studios, American studios are concerned, I'm a bit less, you know, I wouldn't, I'm less up to date on their strategies and the online thing. But in France, it's like in a week that cinemas are about to reopen. They have not yet been addressing the possibility of tearing down the famous media chronology that has been at the heart of the business model here for the industry. So, but obviously it will come up very soon. I think the real threat for cinemas is right now. It's even more endangering for them right now than it was before COVID, because during COVID, I mean, at least in France, there was, you know, the state was helping them through different ways. But right now they are open, but will they be empty or not? I mean, their max capacity is 30%. So it's already very limited. So some films, like for example, Cannes announced its lineup. I mean, the labels. Some films are about to be released theatrically in France. Among those films, they are scheduled for early or mid-July. So it's a tentative to kind of go as it was before COVID, but we'll see. I mean, the real answer will come straight from the market or from the audience. Will they be in cinemas or no? If of course, if the box office is just like almost inexistent, they will reconsider and adapt their online strategies.
Another big question, there seems to be a power shift. Old in-person institutions like festivals and markets, where curation, visibility, and audience building and the buzz and an event took place. Do you see any emerging new institutions or ways of working that filmmakers and producers can participate in?
I think we're experiencing it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people from all over the world tuning into this program, and we're all in different parts of the world. And I think that's the special kind of acceleration. It forces people to do this, and they have access to things they might not have had before.
In one way, we've all been separated because we can't be together, but also things have somehow become more intimate. So here we all are in our homes, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, wherever we are, with the kids, coming in and interrupting, et cetera. So, and this is also applied to celebrities and filmmakers. So everyone's in the same boat. And I think what might have changed a little bit is the expectation now of the audience to have access, and also maybe the willingness of the filmmakers and the talent and the stars, et cetera, involved to actually use these new tools to communicate with the audience. So for me, I think one of the biggest changes that we might see, and one that I think could be very positive, is to see greater interaction with, the audience and the filmmakers, and both an expectation of the audience for that and an allowance of the filmmakers to do that. And it's sometimes interesting to look at other industries. So I have a friend who's a book publisher, and that we have this important book festival here in the UK called Hay on Wye, the Hay Festival. So she was telling me usually when an author is at the Hay Festival, it's a really important moment because they speak to like about 50 or 100 people about their book in the Q&A session. Well, they took all those things online now, and those online talks are gaining like 5,000 viewers and stuff like that. And it's like a totally different level of exposure. So I think it's going to, change a lot about how films are marketed and how communication happens around films.
I found my short film on the movie website, and I don't know how it ended there. So are you taking stuff from IMDb, or how do films that are not distributed on movie, how they end up on movie?
The film database, it's quite amazing like how that is set up. So that's basically, we have these contributors all around the world. So I don't know how many at last count there are, but I think it's in the level of like hundreds, who are, every time a film is announced or created and like launched at a festival, for example, they add it to our film database. So we actually have like a really incredible and an incredibly comprehensive film database now. So that will be why there's a film page, because if the film page for your short will be there, because pretty much every film that's been made, and as their new films are made, are collected and put there, like IMDb basically. And like I said, that's like this kind of incredible, we have this back-end system where people have access, and then they go in there and they're able to see different things that they need to do and create those film pages, etc. So that's where that comes from.
I think we have arrived at the very end of our time here. So I would like to thank our panelists for today. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for your generosity and all the insight. I know for myself that I enjoyed your company very much. And in the name of the Film Institute, I'd like to thank you again for being with us today. Thank you, and hope to see you soon.
Great, thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe and healthy, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.